And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new On Location episode here on ITSPmagazine. I'm your host, Sean Martin. I'm flying solo. Oftentimes, Marco Ciappelli, my co-founder, will join me, but he doesn't like AppSec. I don't know why. No, I'm kidding. No, he's the psych guy. I'm the tech guy, and I get to do all the fun technical bits. And I really wanted to do OWASP. I'm a huge fan of the organization and the projects and the programs and the people and the outcomes that come from it. And I wanted to be in Lisbon as well. So I decided let's talk about AppSec and let's talk about OWASP AppSec Global in Lisbon. And who better to do that with than some of the folks who are sharing stories as keynotes as part of the conference. And I'm thrilled to have Isabel, Denis, and Rob on. How are you, Al?
Yeah, very good.
Great. Thanks,
Hi there. Super.
Here we are. We're going to have some fun in Lisbon. We're going to do AppSec and DevSecOps and web stuff, and who knows what else we're going to get into. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Before we get into the topics, though, a few words from each of you about your role, what you're up to, and I'll say congratulations to all of you for getting a speaking spot there. Isabel, what are you up to?
Hello. Well, I'm happy to be here, and will be more happy to be there, of course. So I'm an academic. I'm a professor and a researcher. I like open science, and I like a lot AI that I'm working since ever. And from several years up to now, I work on AI for cybersecurity solutions and on the security of AI. I'm also collaborating with ENISA, the European cybersecurity organization, on the topics of AI security and the cybersecurity skills framework. I come from the Polytechnic of Porto. Also nice to visit.
Yes, maybe I'll take a train ride up and take a tour. Well, thanks for taking the time, Isabel. Denis.
So I was born in Lisbon, so I'm actually Portuguese, right? So this is like coming home to me. It's really nice. Although I've been in London for 28 years. I've also been doing AppSec forever. I was one of the early sort of, members of OWASP. I was a board member. I involved a lot of things. I think I really helped with the OWASP Portugal chapter for a while, some conferences there. So I've done a lot of stuff. And now I'm actually doing a startup on the cyber boardroom, which is, I've done my CISO jobs, and now I really want to figure out how to do AI and scaling and figure out how to get it under control and get a lot of value from it. And I'm very excited to go to the AppSec in Portugal, right? Which is going to be an amazing conference we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And good to have you on again, Denis. And Rob, you've been on as well. Good to see you again. What are you up to?
Great to see you, Sean. Yeah, what I'm up to? Well, see friends again at the AppSec conference. I look very much forward to meeting the SAM team, of who I'm sort of part. Meeting the OpenCRE team, OpenCRE that I founded with the integration of multiple security standards in one resource. The AI Exchange team, so 3 OWASP projects that are dear to my heart. A lot of today's work, of course, has to do with AI, and it also has to do with my background. I have 32 years experience in AI. So I was doing AI way before it was cool and way before you could earn any money with it. But it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I like to dispense what I learned in standard writing, in doing keynotes. And regarding standards, I worked on the ISO 5338 on AI engineering. And currently, I'm working on the AI Act security standards. Pretty big challenge, I have to say.
I can only imagine, because I could never do it. So I'm thankful that you are doing it, Rob, along with the team there. It's not lost on me that the 3 of you, each of your sessions touches or leads with or is all about AI. At an OWASP AppSec conference. So clearly you're all working in that field, but why do you, I don't know if you have any insight, why I have some ideas, but why AI is so prevalent as keynotes in this year's conference?
Well, of course, AI is prevalent everywhere. So it's on everybody's minds. Everybody's struggling how to make sense of it, how to work with it. So I guess when you organize a conference, you want to cater to the needs of the audience, which is, guys, help us with how we need to deal with this topic of AI, give us some guidance. And that's what we're going to do.
And I guess that's probably a better way to put my question. Are the developers, engineers asking for help, or are we saying they need help? Or both?
I think that the landscape is so huge and so emergent topics that come to the light so quickly, and so much topics that everybody is in need of help, I would say. I as a researcher, I usually have much more questions than answers, and I think that all the community is like this at this point. And yeah, let's see what we can bring to demystify and to try to organize some of the topics and some of the ideas that are around this. That's what I hope, at least.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's actually multiple ways to look at this. In one way, this is another technological revolution, and I think another massive one that is actually also been driven by the top. It's very weird, for to be in exec meetings and the actual senior leaders are saying, "Hey, where's your strategy?" Right? In the past, they're like, "Well, we don't want cloud, or who cares about it? Who cares about mobile? Who cares about that stuff?" Right? But I'm an optimistic on this. I think there's an element that needs to be controlled. I think there's an element that people are not understanding the risks, and I think we need to explore that. But I also feel that this allows us to solve problems in AppSec that in the past I could never see how we scale. So the way I kind of look at this is that I remember going from AppSec from nobody knew about it, that nobody cared about it, nobody kind of knew why it was for, to all the way that, yes, we know it's very important. And I think we got to the point where we know how to do it right. The problem was scale, right? There was a moment, maybe about 5, 7, 8 years ago, where a lot of the key patterns were in place. The main problem was how to scale it, right? How to actually do this at scale where there's more and more software being developed, there's more and more systems interconnected, etc. And I think what GenAI gives us, and I think on the understanding side of things, the interpretability side of things, it gives us an ability to understand data, understand systems, understand how things work, that in the past were either impossible or too expensive to code on top of it, right? And then you have all the other stuff, right? That the attack surface is going to grow dramatically. I think deep fakes and the attacks are going to go another level. Although I do think that this will tip the hands of the defenders, but from the attackers, this is also an insane capability, right? So it's kind of like, it's a revolution that's happening at all levels. And then you add to the mix the fact that the biggest companies in the world are not ignoring it, they are investing on it, right? Where if you think about the last revolutions, all the major companies in the world at the time couldn't care more for it, right? Where, in fact, they actively discourage it, right? They almost view the new technology revolution as a threat, where now the new major companies, yes, they see it as a threat, but also they're investing heavily on it. And that means that the acceleration and the hype, of course, is even higher, right? And it actually works, which is another reason why it's so powerful.
Yeah, Sean, so I work for a software improvement group. We help clients, create better software. And they have a lot of questions on AI, but almost only from clients that are already somewhat mature with AI. The ones that are just starting, they're just curious, they want to experiment, they don't need any help. And then they run into issues to take it to the next level, to go into production where they, need to start worrying about security and maintainability, and things need to move out of the lab. That's where they especially are calling for help.
And I did a panel on this topic the other day, and one of the things we talked about was to the title of your session, Rob. AI is just software, right? And the other point we talked about is it's really just data as well,
which is code now,
right? With data, exactly.
It's code now.
And so it raises a question of So are we able to apply what we know to this world of AI-enabled apps?
Yeah. So my answer to
or are we like twisting our mind so much because it's so new that we're kind of missing the point that it is just, and I'm interested to hear how you're going to speak to this, Rob, that it is just software and data, right? So if we just follow the general rules we already know, and then to Denis's point, if we scale it, scale our development in a safe and secure way, then maybe it might be, I'm not leaving yours out on purpose, Isabel. We're going to get there in a second, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? It's just software. It's just data. We know how to do this stuff. Maybe we have a chance to do it better now.
Yeah, it's what I often repeat to prevent organizations from going down a rabbit hole and building their own framework for AI, because they see this as something magical, weird, that requires something special. I also see standard makers write entire frameworks for AI where 90% is actually, the description of risk analysis and the description of red teaming as we know it. Of course, things are weird in AI and they need special treatment, but that part is relatively small. The rest is, familiar stuff, risks, threats, controls, security awareness. So try to start there and see what is special about AI and then focus on that. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I actually did a presentation to an OWASP crowd and about actually how to break and how to not to get apps break, GenAI broken. And what I was basically saying is exactly that, is that, ultimately, even if you take the top 10, right, most of it is actually AppSec, the top 10 for GenAI, right? Most of it is just good application security, good network security, good risk management, etc. In fact, I would actually argue that this needs everything we were doing at OWASP even more, right? Because if you think about it, the AI as an API, which is an API, right? Request goes in, comes out. At the same time, is the most vulnerable API that you have, right? Because literally data is code. It's like there's even no segmentation. Like we don't even know what a buffer overflow for a GenAI looks like, right? But the worst part is that not only that is also your worst insider threat. Because when that thing pops, right, that is now attacking you from the inside, right? So if you think about it, everything we're doing in AppSec, it's needed times 10, right? I actually think that and Rob, I feel that there's a path there, which is like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. In fact, I would argue, apart from prompt engineering, which is actually a step backwards, because we went from trying to separate code and data in everything we did, all the way to the point where now data is code, right? Which is pretty problematic. Just about everything else is just pure AppSec, information management, risk management, cybersecurity, risk, all the practices that are very mature right now, from a kind of a defense point of view, right?
So Isabel, I want to get your perspective on this, because I was chatting with Jim Manico the other day. He's doing training at OWASP in Lisbon, and many moons ago, I was a quality assurance engineer, where I was responsible for defining how the thing should work and validate that it's doing what it's supposed to, and I was doing that white box, black box. And the point I was making in the conversation with Jim is I could create a fairly finite set of cases that I could test against. And to Denis's point of data as code now, pretty much anything can happen, right, in an AI-enabled app. And you don't know what you're putting in if it's good, if what you're getting out is good, if it's being manipulated along the way. And we're, to your session with the word trust in there, are we able to trust our apps? And I look at it not just from a app function perspective, but a business logic perspective, right? We're using this stuff to make business decisions, letting people create accounts, letting people transfer money, letting people do whatever based on this data. So your thoughts on all that?
Yeah. Okay. So back to the previous topic, I believe we cannot for sure forget that AI is on the top of an infrastructure that for sure needs to be secured by default. Okay. So all the concerns we have should be ensured, and then we focus on what exactly AI brings that is different, that is new, and the new types of attacks it can bring. And from the trust point of view, trusting is a process. it's the same when we are in a new organization, when we meet some new people. There is a process to start trusting the others. And what I see about AI is that it's a process that we need to look into, not just from the point of view of the traditional metrics we use to evaluate what we can get from AI, that typically we wish to have a wonderful accuracy, the best recall, F1 score, and etc. But also from the point of view of and if I can get those good metrics, those standard metrics in good values, but I can have more robust models. And if I can get a way to understand what the model is saying. So what I want to bring here is there are a lot of properties that we want AI to show and we want it to respect, to start and to be able to build this trust relationship on the models. And for that, there are some research on the topic, and I will try to, as much as possible, bring all the research that I know about it and how can we really identify and what other metrics or what other classifications or what other ways do we have to classify how good is an AI model.
So Isabel, your talk is actually trust cards for AI. Can you talk a bit more about the cards?
I will. What do I want to bring here? Yeah, the card will be like an identity card, not from the identity point of view on cyber, but to show. Not usually we look into a model as okay. It is an ensemble learning. It has these parameters. I don't want to look at it just like that. I don't want to cross-check a model with data and just say, we got this accuracy, we got this recall. I want to show we have this level of robustness and this level of explainability and this level of privacy. And so based on this kind of data cards and this kind of data models that I intersect, I can bring more trust, or I can more easily go into a trusted relationship with that or not.
Yep.
Interesting. Isabel, will you also go into data poisoning, the relation between data poisoning and risk and trust in your trust card?
Of course, I need to bring those concepts to show what can we do, for example, to increase a model robustness, to check how robust it can be or not. So those concepts will, I guess, come naturally. And sometimes I also feel that we need to put some simple clarifications and simple organization on the landscape, because I guess that all the people speak about the buzzwords related to AI. And from an academic point of view, I believe that we need to have people that come with background that is strong on both domains. Like we have super good people on cyber and we have super good people on AI. We need to have profiles and to educate those profiles to come with strong and solid background on the intersection of these two worlds.
Yeah,
that's also a goal I have as a professor on this field.
We talked about this, Isabel, when I visited your institute.
Yeah, exactly.
That this is sort of a rare combination of expertise. And I guess, Sean, that also ties into your question. So why does this AppSec conference have so many talks about AI? You don't find AI security people around very easily. They're quite rare. And it has to do with that it's relatively odd that these things are combined for historical reasons, but they're also different skill sets. I mean, from programmer to hacker, I mean, that's sort of that's a shorter path, I would say, than from a data scientist to a hacker, because a data scientist is mostly interested in a working model, whereas a programmer is also educated to make sure that a system is secure and reliable. So the distance, topic-wise, I guess, at least that's my theory, is bigger. And that's why you probably don't see so many people combining these.
Which actually, I think, brings an interesting opportunity, because I do think that when somebody grows in cybersecurity, there's a very healthy skepticism, very healthy, sort of questions that you ask, or how does it work? How does it actually operate? What's really happening in the hood that you can bring into it, right? And so Isabel, one of the things that would be very interesting to connect. So my talk is an area that I've kind of been evolving into, which is about having deterministic GenAI outputs, so like the output of GenAI with provenance. So what I'm now more and more is I'm staying away from the sort of creation element of LLMs and the sort of the hallucinations. So I kind of view that is when you do want it, a level of creativity, a level of, I would say hallucinations, that's fine. But, the practice and the use cases I'm after are very deterministic. So it's almost about taking away the models. The whole thing is just saying, I just want to understand how they actually work, and also understand the parameters, and also operate on them, where you bring your own content, where you bring your own logic, and you almost use the models for reasoning, not for content creation. And you also use the models for translation, which they're actually really good at, right? But not just translation from a language A to B. They're very good at translating, a culture from one culture to another, one personality to another personality, one, type of individual to another type of individual. And also those are things, again, we can feed good examples to it. So I'm kind of staying away from custom models, staying away from any kind of that world, which I think is going to be a horror story, because nobody knows how he actually learns. Nobody knows how he actually holds data. I think it's very risky when you rely on that black box to do a lot of your logic. So I kind of want to make sure my GenAI world is deterministic, and also the provenance is interesting, because it's about having a chain of trust of where the data is. And the interesting thing about a GenAI model is that breaks the chain of trust, if you think about it, right? Because we need to be able to connect the data with where it came from. So it's an interesting gap that you have with a GenAI, both on creating of images and creating of content, where they break, in a way, the chain of trust. So then how do you glue that back together, right? Where you can say, well, this output is verified by this, this, this. So, and I think
blockchain,
even on that one, I feel the GenAI has so much value that it can give to us. Now, even in the short term, we don't need the rest, right? Just getting that right allows us to become crazy more productive, especially on AppSec side of things and at other parts.
Yes, there are several interesting use cases of GenAI on the cyber domain, and to capture the context, I think, is very important and useful. But I don't think we should focus just on GenAI. I think a good view on the landscape and what are the concerns and how to create the trust also needs to take into account the more, let's say, discriminative type of AI, and not just forget it exists, because I believe a good combination of both can make a difference, and we can still rely on them for several of the problems and the use cases.
Yeah, I will also go into trust issues with AI. I will talk about packet hallucinations, which I think are quite fascinating, and they show that LLMs can have a very different model of the real world based on the examples that they've seen. I'll talk about criminal profiling that I did in the 90s on volume crime, but also on individual criminals, which was very successful then, but is going to be illegal within a couple of months with the EU AI Act. I almost was canceled because I did that in the 90s. Long story. It's the cause AI of the falling of the Dutch government recently, where there was an affair around an AI application. There was a recent situation in the Netherlands also with bias that was actually unavoidable. So even when designing the whole idea, you could already the trust card would show that you cannot trust the output of it. So it was no use going ahead at all. And I will touch upon sort of an elephant in the room in cloud AI, also about trust, where nobody's speaking of, but there is a situation where client data actually leaves the virtual private cloud. Nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to know, but it's threatening security. So we're dealing with a situation where we find AI too good to dismiss, which makes us make some concessions and sacrifices that we, I think, should do explicitly, and we're currently doing it implicitly, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that will blow up, right? Like, those things. There's a ton of startups, there's a ton of companies they're doing that kind of stuff, and you're going to have a crazy amount of horror stories coming along, right? And also, I think these days the margin of error that you have is much lower, right? Like, I think 5-10 years ago, you could go to the cloud and get away with crazy amount of mistakes because the business models were not very evolved. I think these days there's such a sophistication on the commercial business models or the exploitation that I think a lot of people are going to find that very fast, that when one of those models go wrong, the exploitation goes from little to a lot, right? Because and these are not even the attackers using AI to attack, which is they're also going to do it, right? But there's a much more sophisticated business models on this, and there's an interesting element here that I find that and Isabel, I think your point that we need to look at all the models. Of course we do, right? And I actually think that we really had a massive problem with bias and discrimination with normal models. The difference is that because they didn't hallucinate that badly, and because it was like small margins, and it was almost like, yes, there were a lot of people affected, but they all like voiceless, they got away with it. And I want to get back to the point where we need to have deterministic and provenance on how we use these models. To be honest, we need to do that with software, right? Like, Rob, one of the things you say about is all software, you have to remember that most of our software is broken, right? Like, most of our software hallucinates as badly as GenAI. Like, most of our software that it's developed by people that are not over there. The companies don't maintain it. Is a patch on top of a patch on top of a patch. It kind of just works, right? So I like the idea that we now have the opportunity to clean a lot of these, where we're going to not just swipe the new AI stuff that needs to be under control, but also a lot of our historical stuff that we need to understand, because the world depends more and more and more on software.
Yeah, and you use the word understand, and I'll start to bring us to a close here. I'm sure we could talk for multiple hours around each of our topics, because what I love about OWASP are all the projects, and especially what we're talking about here today. We're talking about bringing data scientists and developers and security folks, and hopefully some business folks as well, right? Interested in this stuff. And in a world where we're abstracting everything and we're trusting the abstraction to deliver what we want and what we expect, it's important that we have these conversations and these presentations to unpack and expose and highlight and discuss and work through the differences and really get to a point where we know, kind of to your point, Dinis, we know we're doing what we want with this stuff. We're not just taking it blindly. And so each of your sessions clearly are going to present research and other work that you've each done and bring conversations together. So for me, it's incredible, and I'm happy to be part of it as helping to tell the story of each of your sessions. I'm going to give you each a moment to maybe do a call to action for who you want to be in your session and what do you hope they take away from it. Isabel?
I was wondering how many data scientists will we have there? Because I would like these different profiles to be in the session. I think all the sessions. I don't want it to be just a cyber community, because like I said before, I think we need these two topics and these two types of skills to be together in a more strengthened way. So I hope that we can speak to people that have cyber concerns as much as we will speak to people that are dealing with data, that are building models, and they need the security of the work they do. So for me, it's really to speak about AI for cyber people and to speak about security for AI people. That's what I hope could be some the audience there, and I hope to contribute to clarify some of these, and not just to contribute, also to challenge. Like I said, as a researcher, I'm never satisfied. I always have much more questions than answers.
I love it. Rob?
Yeah, I present a full-day training on AI security the day before the conference. And I have 50 people attending and 3 data scientists. So, yeah, that I think that's what you can expect at an AppSec conference. But I would indeed would like to call data scientists, if they can, to come to Lisbon. And if not, to watch the recordings of the sessions that are going to come out, because it's time that software engineers and data scientists, work together and learn from each other. That's what I hope.
So that's 2 calling all data scientists. Dinis, do we have 3?
I'll call everybody, right? I think OWASP is an amazing community, right? OWASP is an amazing culture. It's an amazing environment. It's very welcoming. It's been doing basically this problem for 25 years, almost 30 years, I guess. And I highly recommend anybody to come, right? Because you're going to meet some amazing individuals. You're going to learn a lot. It's great for your career. It's great for your professional networking. It's great personally. Some of my best friends I met through OWASP, right? You can publish your research on it. It's literally an insane great community, and it's still going strong, and it's in a way it has kept its soul, which is really cool, right? And it's really great to see a huge amount of innovation coming out of OWASP after all these years, and I think again this is going to be another big player in the next phase. So I think anybody should come to the OWASP conference in Lisbon, and it's a great conference. It's a great venue. It's in a great place, great food, great people, great presenters, right? And not just us, right? I think if you look at the people that are presenting, there's some insane talks. And the LobbyCon, which is what the people you meet in the lobby, is still one of the best in the world, right? So, I highly recommend anybody to come to Lisbon in 2 weeks from now, right?
That's right.
Amen.
For the pastel de nata and
the pastel de nata. If you know the Portuguese custard cake, the best place to invented is like 500 meters away, right, from the venue, right, that we are in, right. It's and it's by the bridge. The big bridge in Lisbon is literally you have a view of the bridge. You got the sea in front. It's an amazing venue for us to be in, and the weather should be really good, right? So
Should be nice. Well, I'm super excited, and I want to again congratulate each of you on having an opportunity to share your thoughts and insights and research and everything else with hopefully a very diverse group. And I want to thank you for sharing your time here with me today. Hopefully the call to action is come all data scientists and come all AppSec folks.
Yeah.
And let's all meet together.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's have some fun. Have a good week there. 2 days of training.
Yeah.
And 3 days of sessions. I closed the main page. Let me open the main page. It's 24th through the 28th. And it's in the Lisbon Congress Center. So thanks everybody for listening and watching this episode. And I do hope to see you in Lisbon, or as Rob said, if you can't make it, please do connect with folks, this group first off and foremost, and then listen to all the other sessions as well as you can. Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. See you all.